Hel- Hello, hello, welcome, welcome. My name is Preston Jacobs. We are talking about some ice and fire here. Let's talk about tonight about Blackfyres and about coins, biting coins. This came back into my mind here because I was doing my analysis of the Hedge Knight, and I came across another one of George's biting coin scenes. George, when he does these scenes, they kind of repeat. And uh, I'll bring up the Hedge Knight here for a second and this will get into Blackfyres in a second, but I need to highlight first, like the first time George did this in his writing, which is in the Hedge Knight. So let's bring up, where's my Hedge Knight? Hedge Knight. Here we go. So here we have the Hedge Knight here. And at the beginning of the story, I think I'll probably find out what the word taste. No, taste of the salt beef. Here we go. So George Dunk at the beginning of the Hedge Knight, he's trying to sell his horse Sweetfoot for the gold or the coin to pay for his armor from Steely Pate. And in no way is it necessary. It's in no way is it necessary that we have this scene where he bargains with the horse trader, and he gets three dragons for his horse, and then goes on his way and buys his armor. It is a completely irrelevant scene. It could have happened off screen. It also, he could have been handed a very large bag of silver. There's no reason why he needs to get three dragons here, except for the metaphorical meaning of him having three dragons, in the same way that Daenerys had three dragons. Let's keep in mind that, like, this is written in between a Game of Thrones and a Clash of Kings. Like, the place in the Daenerys story right now where George is she's been reborn with three dragons. And so Dunk in this story is being reborn with three dragons. This is the only reason why this scene is here. If you try to read into and I'll go into this when the Dunk video comes out, my Dunk 7 video comes out, but Dunk gets three dragons, and at this point, Dunk cannot read. And so he says, like, the stableman gave him 3 gold pieces and the rest in silver. By the way, it also, like, the three dragons thing is there. It doesn't make any sense with regards to other costs that we come across in Ice and Fire, that horses are 3 dragons in the Hedge Knight, but for some reason they're 1 dragon for Brienne in A Storm of Swords during wartime. It makes no economic sense. But the point is that George is only worried about the fact that, he's gotten 3 dragons, just like Daenerys had 3 dragons. That's it. That's the end of it. But he gets the 3 dragons, and the stableman gave him 3 gold pieces and the rest in silver. Dunk bit one of the gold coins and smiled. Now, he doesn't know anything about gold coins. He had never tasted gold before nor handled it. The joke here is that gold doesn't taste like anything. People don't bite coins to taste them. They bite them to check the softness. Okay? But Dunk is, an ignoramus. So he, like, dunked the lung thick of as a castle wall. It doesn't matter. But the point is, we have this thing here, is he's getting a gold coin, and he's not very familiar with gold coins. So he bites it because he does, and he's never tasted it before. He thinks tasting is part of it, even though it's not. Dragons men called the coins, since they were stamped with a 3-headed dragon of House Targaryen on one side, and the other bore the likeness of the king. 2 of the coins Henley gave him had King Daeron's face. The third was older, well worn, and showed a different man. His name there was under his head, but Dunk could not read the letters. Gold had been shaved off the edges too, he saw. He pointed this out to Henley and Loudley. Stablemen grumbled, handed over some silver. Okay, so Dunk. We have a lot of things that are interesting about the scene. Okay, one, Dunk gets a dragon. He's not used to getting a dragon, so he bites it. He brings up taste. In fact, let's make a list here because these things are important. Okay, so we have. I'll put a novice with gold. Oops. And then I would say, why is it not letting? Do I have to hit shift here to get this? What the hell? There we go. I'd say incorrectly thinks taste is part of it. Can't recognize face. Okay. I'm trying to think if there's something else here. Can't recognize the king's face. That's about good enough. Okay. So let's have these three things over here. We have somebody that isn't experienced with gold. What's going on here? Why is my ecam is suddenly like highlighted yellow for some reason? I wonder if something is going on here. No. My name is Preston Jacobs. Let's see. Let's hope everything is. Why is this preview mode? I don't know what's going on there. Let me. No pressed inception. No, but I'm just saying like let me know if everything is working here, because for some reason my ecam is like yellow for some reason on my side. I've never seen it like this, and it says like preview mode, which is oh, here we go. Cancel. Back to live mode. What the hell is this? Seems good to me. Thank you, Nick. That's all I needed to know. So anyway, sorry that the things are just weird on my side. I'm sorry. So we got these three things from this Dunk story. Keep in mind, this Dunk story is written in. We only have novice with gold. Interesting. New pre. Interesting. Okay. Novice with gold. Okay, so you get that. Novice with gold. And then overlay. That's interesting. Novice with gold. And then taste. Incorrect. Oh yeah, we got four things here. We got biting, and then we got can't recognize the king. Huh, working but no intro. Okay. Revert changes. Are you sure you're going to publish before reverting to live mode and revert? Huh. Fucking A. All right, let me see here. I don't know what happened here with my publish changes, revert changes. Thanks, IT Crowd. I had an intro. Maybe turn it off and on again. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the hell happened here. Preview mode. Full control, make changes you need to do while you're live without the audience seeing. Oh, I don't want to do that. Okay. Let's revert changes. All right. Something, it was something to do with the text or something. All right. Novice with gold, biting, taste, head, king's head. All right. Everything is fucking back. I don't know what the hell that was. All right. There. Everything's back. God damn it. God damn it. Reboot the geckos. Okay, so these four things. Now keep in mind, Hedge Knight, written 1998. Okay, so next we're dealing with, I'll go back to comments here for a second here, just so everyone knows. So this is all in the Hedge Knight, written 1998, where Dunk comes across this coin. And then we then get to A Feast for Crows. Now, A Feast for Crows, you got to remember, like, for everybody reading it, it seems like, oh, A Feast for Crows comes out in 2005, and then A Dance with Dragons comes out in 2011, and you know, it was written chronologically like this, and it's like, no, unfortunately, as it turns out, probably the Aria chapters of A Dance with Dragons predate the prologue of A Feast for Crows. Weirdly enough, the Aria chapters have been pieces of it have been broken up and brought around, but I can even show you guys this. This is G. Steph when he went to the Cushing Library. He like logged all of the chapters from like this is the June 2004 drafts, and you can see that Cat of the Canals is written here, and then and it already has parts from Ugly Little Girl in there, and then he has placeholders for 2 Aria chapters that are partially written. Well, that's clearly the Ugly Little Girl and the Blind Girl. So he's partially written the Aria chapters of A Dance with Dragons back in 2004, and he has a placeholder for the missing prologue. We know that the prologue of A Feast for Crows was written rather late, kind of near the end of that of A Feast for Crows, because he originally had the mega prologue and then abandoned the mega prologue and stuff like that. So Pate and his coin are written relatively late, and he kept rewriting that. But nonetheless, even in the earlier versions, we get the Pate coin thing. So let's talk about the Pate coin. So we get to Pate coin. Here's A Feast for Crows, and let's see here. We got feast. We got feast here. Here we go. Feast for Crows. What is this? Mystery Night? What do I got? What do I got? I got too many windows open here. Long prologue. Here we go. Feast for Crows. So, we can kind of see that it's got Beggar King, 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 King. I know he says... Where was it? I've drunk enough. Comes to the alchemist was standing over him, and let's talk about the coin. He saved the coin. The coin appeared. The alchemist made him walk across his knuckles, and we kind of know that. And here it is. Pate grabs the coin from his hand. The gold felt warm in his palm. He brought it to his mouth and he bit down the way he'd seen men do. If truth be told, he wasn't sure what gold should taste like, but he didn't want to look like a fool. So we're getting the same things again here. We're getting the biting and the tasting. And of course, Dunk is an idiot, doesn't know that you don't taste gold. Pate is an idiot, doesn't know that you don't taste gold. So we have the novice with gold, we have the biting and the tasting. And then I think it's an earlier part where he starts talking about the here we go. Earlier, he actually says, I can change iron to gold. And then he had the coin in hand, dancing across his knuckles. The soft yellow gold shining in the candlelight. On one side is a three-headed dragon. On the other, the head of some dead king. Right there. Some dead king. So, Pate as well does not recognize the king's head. So George has repeated himself here. We have an idiot who's a novice with gold, bites the gold, thinks he can taste it, doesn't recognize the face on it. Okay, so then we get to Aria, A Dance with Dragons. We can probably, because I think that's spread across two different stories. So let's see if we can get to the coin. Let's bring up Google Chrome. Let's search for Blackfyre. Am I not? Let's bring this back. Oh, great. Now my thing is not. Oh, this gets frozen too. So I'm gonna do this really quick. Get me back. There we go. Man, this eCam is being crazy tonight. Back to the search. So we have this whole thing in the blind girl, and keep about coins. And remember, the blind girl and the prologue of A Feast for Crows are written around the same time. All right, we're talking like around probably 2000, late 2004, early 2005. These chapters are being written really close to each other. Admittedly, the Hedge Knight is written much earlier, 1998. So he says the blind girl went into the dark. She has this whole thing about counting coins, which plays no role in the plot at all, by the way. Coins of other lands. Lyseni coins were ovals and showed naked women. Other coins were stamped on them. The Westerosi coins showed a king's head on the front and a dragon on the back. That is the same language that was used with Pate in the prologue, right? He said on one side is a three-headed dragon. On the other side, some dead king. And I think in the Hedge Knight, in the Hedge Knight, he said dragons. Come on, Hedge Knight. Here you are. Because maybe that's something else. We're talking about the two sides of the coin. Is both yeah, dragons. Three-headed dragons on one side, the other the likeness of a king. So actually, oh man, let's do this again. Can't recognize king's head, but then there's a specific description of the two sides, right? Dragon head. So it's really kind of like 5 things going on that are very similar. A novice with coins, biting, tasting, can't recognize. Well, we'll get there with the aria, because right now we've got her describing the two sides of a coin, and then Westerosi on one side, dragon on the back, but then she can't recognize the coin. The corpses was laid out. The old woman had no purse. She found 4 golden dragons of Westeros. She was running the ball of her thumb across the most worn of them, trying to decide which king it showed, when she heard the door opening softly behind her. So Arya as well cannot recognize the king's head. And then we get in The Ugly Little Girl, the whole thing about biting coins. And she actually also says tasting coins. Right. He never looked at the coins. Instead, he bit them, always left side of the mouth. And then I think he literally says when all of the coins were tasted. Yeah, when all of the coins had been counted and tasted. So, boom, boom, boom. Now 3 parts where George has repeated himself. A novice with gold, biting, tasting, can't recognize the king's head. Description of the two sides dragon head. Okay. Now, which brings us to the 4th and final one, which is the Mystery Knight, which is perhaps the most important one. And we get to the Mystery Knight. Now, the Mystery Knight, it's very difficult to determine when the Mystery Knight was written. George, in interviews, says that the Mystery Knight gave him a lot of trouble. It was published in 2010, but he said that it had given him a lot of trouble and he'd set it aside for a number of years and had come back to it. The same he said of the Sworn Sword. So it's very difficult to know when the Mystery Knight was written. Do I think it was written as early as 2005? No, I don't. So it could have been in some of his stuck periods during running A Dance with Dragons and things like that. But here we get the same kind of thing where somebody gives him a coin and they say, we give Sir Duncan the coin. Dunk had no choice but to take it. He unhorsed me. Must he make a caper for me too? Frowning, he hefted the coin in his palm, examined both sides, and tasted it. Gold. Again, tasting coins. It's such a weird thing. Like, you don't put coins in your mouth to taste them. Like, that's just not what you do. You're checking for softness. Gold, not shaved or clipped. The weight feels right. I'd have taken it too, my lord. What's wrong with it? The king. Dunk took a closer look. The face of the coin was young, clean-shaved, handsome. King Ares was bearded on his coins, the same as King Aegon. I guess between the Hedge Knight and the Mystery Knight now, Dunk is an expert on coins because he had no fucking clue in the Hedge Knight. King Daeron had been between them. He was clean-shaven, but that wasn't him. The coin did not appear worn enough to be from before Aegon the Unworthy. Dunk scowled at the word. 6 letters. Again, he doesn't even know how to read in the Hedge Knight. So here he can read. They look the same as he'd seen on other dragons. Daeron, the letters read. but Dunk knew the face of Daron the Good. It wasn't him. Then he looked again and he saw something odd about the shape of the fourth letter. It wasn't Damon, he blurted out. It was Damon. There was never any King Damon. So we have, this is Blackfyre struck his own coinage during his rebellion. Okay. So now admittedly, we have very, very similar scenes. 4 very, very similar scenes. People that don't know very much about coins, talking about the size of the coins, biting, tasting, can't recognizing the face. And now I have a theory that the faceless men are using Blackfyre gold, and that's why Pate cannot recognize the face at the beginning of the prologue, and why Arya cannot recognize the king in A Dance with Dragons. Now, the weakest part of this theory is the fact that the Blackfyre scene in the Mystery Night is written later. Again, the story comes out in 2010. George had trouble with it. It's hard to say when it's written, but probably not as early as 2005 when Arya and Prologue Pate were written. So, if he was thinking about Blackfyres, that's not that he hadn't come up with the Blackfyres at that point. He had. The Blackfyres do appear all through A Feast for Crows. So it's not that he hadn't come up with them, but to have their faces to think about their gold and their stamped gold and trader's gold and all of that. And certainly George had not thought about that with regards to the Hedge Knight. The Hedge Knight, he had no idea about Bloodraven or Blackfyres or any of that kind of stuff. So, and the very similar scene happens in the Hedge Knight. So it could very well be that just George is being repetitive, that he reads his material, he gets inspired, his metaphors go to the same place, people putting coins in their mouth. He starts talking about tasting, even though it has, there's nothing to do with it. But the fact that these scenes are so similar does make me think that he was reviewing things. If the order went, he wrote the Hedge Knight, and then decided when he decided to review the Hedge Knight for the Mystery Night, put this scene in, and then this scene was very early, and then that inspired him for Prologue and Arya. That would be like the perfect order. But I don't think that it was that early. But I mean, in the most uninteresting sense, George is just being repetitive. He wrote 4 different scenes that were remarkably similar. But it's more interesting if these are all linked except for the Hedge Knight, obviously not the Hedge Knight. But it would be interesting if all of them were linked with the fact that it's Blackfyre gold. But as I say, the weakest part of the theory is the fact that the Mystery Night probably is written last, while Prologue and Arya are written around the same time. It is just really weird that Arya and Pate have the same those 2 things are written around the same time, and they have the same experience. That's very weird. But but reading through the Hedge Knight and then looking at the beginning of Clash of Kings, I realized that like George gets inspired by his own writing, and some people are like, why is he in the Hedge Knight he uses the same vocabulary over and over again. So the idea is that somehow the Blackfyres, maybe the Golden Company and stuff were paying the Faceless Man to do things. But that's the most interesting answer. The most uninteresting answer is simply that George is being repetitive. And he rewrote the same essential stuff 4 times. Anyway, that's on my my thing on Blackfyre Blackfyre Gold. I thought it was at least. I hope it was at least a little bit interesting to see that George wrote the same scene again. But um, doo, doo, doo. Yeah, if the old time conspiracy was anti-dragon and the Blackfyres had the Dragon X gene, then they can't be they can use like explain Jack and Hagar in Old Town being potentially hiding for Blackfyres. Well, I mean, Jack and Hagar is definitely 100% there for the glass candle. That's just the long prologue, early drafts of the prologue for Feast for Crows kind of confirm that he's looking for the glass candle. What he's doing with the glass candle and who, I mean, keep in mind the glass candle also provides immortality in those early drafts of A Feast for Crows. Those early drafts, the glass candle were different in property. So like the glass candles were kind of abominations, one could say, in the religion of a religion of deaths. You know, like if you're granting immortality to people, but the that was then removed from glass candles, but maybe Jockin was not. But you know, the fun thing is that, you know, Jockin is looking for that glass candle so that he can find a mark. And who would the mark be? Well, the mark could be Bloodraven, you know, or something. So the reason they bite the coins is because time traveling brands swapped one gold dragon and chocolate coin from the future. The thoughts on HBO adapting unpublished Duncan Egg stories. Yeah, so George has definitely changed his mind slowly over time about Duncan Egg. The other day, Carmine, just for the hell of it, just to make me laugh, like sent me an old press release that George had sent out like around 2006 about, was it 2006? What was the thing? I've got to check what he sent. Um, it had to be later. 2016, I mean. It must have been 2016. No, 2006. Fuck. No, no, no. That was the thing. That was the other thing he sent me. Fuck. I'm sorry. He sent me about the World of Ice and Fire, but he sent me something on adapting Duncan Egg, and he had said in the adaptation um, that he didn't want to do. We had a whole video actually. We did it. We talked about this, and we've been talking about this over and over again. Like originally, when he was doing the 5 adaptations, when he was pushing forward like all the different shows and the possibilities of of Numeria's ships and Corlys Velaryon and Robert's Rebellion, all this, that Duncan Egg was not one of them. And his reason that he gave was that he wasn't done with Duncan Egg, that he'd been burned by Game of Thrones in adapting stuff and letting the adaptation go beyond what he had written, and he wanted to complete Duncan Egg and all of the stories before he had that adapted. Um, and of course, the you know here he's gone completely. He's changed his mind and he's like, fuck it, like we're going to adapt Duncan Egg even though I'm not finished with it. So he's gone back on that. Um, so we'll see if Duncan Egg is successful. We are talking about a long period of time here, though, because like the fastest you could have Duncan Egg would be, you know, three years, like one coming out in January and another in 2026, and then 2027, 2028. I don't think it'll be like that. It seems like shows at least take 2 years to come out. So Duncan Egg, you know, 2028, 2030. For mystery, you know, to get Mystery Night out. George has talked about 2 stories being at least thought out in his head. That's The Village Hero, which I think should take place between The Sworn Sword and Mystery Night, and the She-Wolves of Winterfell, which takes place after the Mystery Knight. I think he has those stories down. So, would he be willing to just speak them, sit in a hotel room like he did with D&D and like explain like what happens in those stories? Yeah, maybe, probably, but we have to get to that point. So, I think that he might be willing to do that. I mean, like I say, he's changing his mind on Dunk and Egg. Before he was like, we will not publish Dunk and Egg. We will not do a show on Dunk and Egg until it's done. And that's just not what's happening. He's going forward. Now, some people say, oh, could he possibly write one of them? Like, could he write the Village Hero? He's, as early as January this year, he said he was gonna try to write the Village Hero, but they're about 3,000 or 30,000 words each. That's the equivalent of about 5 chapters in A Song of Ice and Fire. Plus, they have to fit. They have to have a good ending and things like that. They're going to take longer. He admittedly had a lot of trouble with Sworn Sword and the Mystery Knight. Both of them, he took a long time writing. So do I think? And he's been saying that he's going to write She-Wolves of Winterfell for over 10 years. He's been mentioning Village Hero abstractly. So I don't think he's actually going to get them written. But do I think that would he sit down and like explain the plot of Village Hero and She-Wolves of Winterfell to get a couple more seasons of Dunk and Egg? Yeah, maybe. Especially with if the first season is really good and he puts all his emotional hope into that, because he doesn't have any in House of the Dragon anymore. So in the wake of Oathgate, will the remaining 3 O's be revealed in the fanfic? So what Lulzar is talking about is at the New York Comic Con, George called onto stage a guy and asked if you knew the knights, if you know that the trivia was like, there was like a trivia question, and it was like, can you recite the knighting oath? And the knighting oath is it's very clearly in the Hedge Knight incomplete. And every person in the world thought it was incomplete. Okay. There was not a single fan out there in the world that thought that the Knight's Oath was complete, because they give the first 4. They give the warrior, the father, the mother, and the maiden. Okay. In the name of the warrior, I charge you to be brave. In the name of the father, I charge you to be just. In the name of the mother, I charge you to defend the weak, the innocent and children. In the name of the maiden, I charge you to defend all women. Okay? Clearly not the end. There's an ellipses in the story. ... Like it's everyone on Earth knows that there would be more. Dogs know that there would be more. There's not a single human being that would have been like, no, it's only 4. Like that's just like ridiculous. Now, whether there'd be 6 oaths or 7 oaths, well, that's up for debate, because we don't know if the stranger gets an oath or not. So it's just, so they call this guy on stage, and the guy, he's pretty good. He gets 3 out of the 4. I think he says, in the name of the warrior, I charge you to be brave. In the name of the father, I charge you to be just. And then he kind of stumbles a little, and then George kind of says, "Yep, you got the 4." And that's and people are like, wait, what? That's the end. Like, no. So we don't know if like George meant the 4 that I wrote versus there's only 4. But no one fucking, like, this is one of those cases where even if George R. R. Martin said there's only 4, it's such an egregious thing that you just be like, no, you just, you 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 don't know your own story. It's done. Like that's like true death of the author right there. It's like I do not care. I do not care if you're God, and like what you say goes. Like the idea that there'd only be four oaths in the knights in the knight oath is so outrageously wrong that I cannot accept it. It's like thinking that it's like rejecting the Star Wars holiday special. Like it's something that's like, yes, George Lucas made it and it's technically canon, but come on, like it can't be. So, but yeah, we'll. But long story short, Lulzar, yes, the last oaths are gonna be in there. Somebody had the idea that maybe the seventh oath could be like, I will honor these oaths until I meet the stranger. So there might be a mentioning of the stranger, even if there's not an oath for the seventh god. But just kind of like come up with what would be a good one for the crone and what would be a good one for the smith. The no one's had any really good ones for the crone. I think some people have said like for the smith, like I charge you to be diligent in your duties or something might be good. But um, hello, come on, hello.
Look, if George R. R. Martin himself, I'm sorry, we already had this
Yeah, I know.
conversation.
If George R. R. Martin
If Jesus
himself
came
said that there's only
down,
four, I'd just be like, I'm sorry, George, you're just wrong. Like it's Star Wars. Like I
so
say, it's Star Wars Holiday Special. How do you feel about the Star Wars Holiday Special?
are you asking me this question?
Yeah,
I've never finished it. I've tried several times. I've never finished it.
it's
It's
really
fucking
boring,
terrible.
right? But it's
It's
like,
boring.
you
Before you
know,
move on from this, real quick, can we add this question here? I'm going to jump off. I'll maybe come back later. Can we add this question to the list of fucking 37,000 questions we want to ask George if we ever had the opportunity? It's Harangan Mines, the dagger,
I
this.
I had an Icelandic friend send me a message saying that he's going to the noir book thing, and he's like, "Anything you want me to ask?" I'm like, "Yes, ask about the Harangan mines and what Avalon's about. You'll be my hero." But yeah, it's because we didn't get
Watch
it.
him
We didn't
tell
get
you.
anybody for the Comic Con, but yeah.
I actually wanted to bring that up real quick. Did anyone listening right now? Did anybody go to like the Comic Con, the New York City Comic Con thing, and got a chance to ask George a question? Because I know the first panel, obviously, they took those milk toast questions from Twitter, and then the second day is just him signing stuff. Did anyone
Right. So you
who
could
got anything
technically
signed?
ask him a real quick question. You're right at signing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah.
I just want to ask if anyone asked like about the
Right,
Harangan
because some
Mines
people said
because.
like I'll try. I obviously I know what no one can like promise, but like I do know some people that are like I'm gonna try. So
I mean, I sent you a message privately where I told you like I think the next ones would be like the crone. I charge you to be wise, but then you had a
you
pushback
can't,
on
yeah,
that.
you can't charge someone to be wise. Like you can't be wise if I really try. Like no, being wise takes experience. Like you can't. It would have to be like I charge you to seek the wisdom of septons or something. Something like seek the wisdom of the faith,
What
or
about the Smith? I charge you to be loyal,
you can
strong,
be
charge you to be
charge somebody to
sharp.
be diligent in their duties. I think that's pretty good.
Hmm.
You know, um, but could Knight of the Seven Kingdoms run 10 seasons, less expensive, no CGI, small cast? Yeah, I mean it could. It's we'll see how it does and what what HBO thinks. If it's
Did you talk
worth.
about how George didn't want to do Dunkin' Egg back in
Yeah.
2017? Did
I
you bring
mentioned
that
it
up?
before that he had specifically said I don't want to do Dunkin' Egg, but this might be his only chance. Um, but yeah, he did mention that he could have about 10 stories. Like there's one essentially he had this name like the Cell Sword and the King's Guard, the Lord Commander. Obviously, Summerhall would be your last one, but there's different stories that people have figured out that are probably involved with Dunk, like one involving somebody being kidnapped in the Stormlands. They're mentioned in the World of Ice and Fire. So different. A couple of them are the different Blackfyre rebellions. Like each of the Blackfyre rebellions would get one, and things like that. So you could fill up the 10 stories, but Um, but yeah, they could do it. They could do 10 seasons, but George is getting old. Can he explain the story? Can he explain the plot? Or do people just keep writing? Like, we don't care. George is out of it. We'll just keep writing. Who knows?
I'll put out the video tomorrow because we do go into him. He did say back in 2017 that he did not want HBO to adapt anything Dunk and Egg. This was like
Yeah,
as spin-off conversation was forming, and I can't believe we actually did a conversation on this back in 2021.
it's so funny that we go in loops. We're like, wait, we in a conversation? Oh God, we already talked about this. Fuck, this is a big deal.
This is
But now,
why the Clips channel is important. This is why to catalog crap like this, because we did discuss this 4 or 5 years ago, and I completely forgot about it.
yeah, yeah. Um, this question. Oh, this is an interesting one. Why didn't Elmar Frey accompany Roose Bolton back north? This is It's true that so Elmar. What Roberto is talking about here is that Elmar Frey was Roose Bolton's squire, and so why, when he is Roose Bolton's squire, does he abandon Roose Bolton? Um, uh, hmm. Hmm. I mean, I guess you could argue that because Elmar. So Elmar, the first we hear of him is that when Rob does his deal with Walder Frey to marry a Frey of his choosing. There's a couple other contingencies to the deal. Um, one of them is that Walder and Walder are going to be taken as wards at Winterfell, and then another one is that Arya has to marry a Frey, and it's eventually established that the Frey that she's supposed to marry is Elmar. And then after the breakup, he like cries that he no longer is going to marry a princess. Um, but yeah, he was a Bruce Bolton's squiring cupbearer. I guess maybe he got super depressed about about the fact that now Ramsay Bolton was going to be marrying his princess, or something like that. Um, huh. All right. Well, now here's another fucking thing I got to fucking fix in the fanfic. Where Elmar Frey is? You're right that Elmar Frey is missing. Is missing in action. We don't know where he went. God damn. God damn. Where did he go? Why? You got any ideas, Carmine, on where Elmar Frey, like why Bruce Bolton would?
You don't need to bring this character back, Preston. You can just let him go. It's
No, man. Elmar Frey is fuck. It's a very good question. Why he didn't? He was squiring for Roose Bolton. Roose Bolton's like, nah, don't need you anymore. Oh, okay, okay. I always thought that the process of squiring for someone that's not in the Faith of the Seven is also kind of weird because Wex is also a squire for Theon, and Elmar Frey is a squire for Roose Bolton. But it's like, what are you squiring to become? Like, clearly not a knight. Like, what are you learning from him? Like, I squired for Roose Bolton, yeah, and now I'm just a dude, you know. Uh,
that's another thing you gotta fix in the fanfic right there.
I know, I know.
That's the real big thing.
Ugh.
I'm gonna bounce. I'll hit you back up later.
All right. Thoughts on Sam killing Randall? I just couldn't see Sam ever doing it. I mean, does he do it by accident or something? Does he get him killed by accident? Um, it's it's almost like way too dark for Sam, like a Sam for Sam to be put in that direction, for him to kill Randall. Randall, he's Randall. The thing is, Randall's so like so attached to all the politics in King's Landing that I just cannot see him surviving that long. Like somebody's gonna fucking kill him. Whether it be John Con coming in, John Con and Aegon, or Varys, or some army, him losing a battle, somebody's got to fucking kill him. Like, I just he's in the most dangerous place, where people around him, are little, drop like flies all the time. So I couldn't see him surviving long enough where you get Sam. Well, first, like getting Sam's story and Randall's story to like come together, and for them to have the conversation, and then for Sam to kill him. Um, he's because Sam is a very different character than say Tyrion, and then like what would drive Sam to kill Randall? It'd have to be something to do with Gilly. Um, like he's kidnapped Gilly or something, and he needs to get Gilly back. But man, it would be really fucking bad if Randall starts fucking Gilly, and then Sam comes in and sees them in bed together, and then strangles Gilly, and then shoots Randall on the toilet. Ugh, be horrible. I couldn't imagine Sam doing any of that. He would just piss himself and not know what to do. Oh, could you explain Lem Lonmouth? Other than the kissing imagery, I don't get it. Unrelated. Shouldn't Stannis and Renly have been considered princes? Yeah, you'd think that Stannis and Renly would be princes, right? Um, why was it never Prince Stannis? Dude, that is just something that people don't think about too much. Um, oh, I see. So some people think that maybe the reason is that because Robert gets on the throne, then now his descendants become princes. And because not so like yes, at other times in history we've got princes, but they are all the children of kings. And so like Damon Targaryen, like his dad was a king. So I guess, however, fuck, that doesn't work either because Bran is called a fucking prince, and he's in the same situation as Stannis, right? He's not the son of a king. He's the brother of a king. So why would Rob Bran shouldn't be a prince either? I guess only in the sense that he's like an heir or something. But yeah, there's no good logic to it. You're right that like it should be Prince Stannis and Prince Renly. If or it should not be Prince Bran and Prince Rickon. Like they're not princes. Um it's yeah, that's just mm, yeah, they should have been calling him. Maybe later we're gonna find out that Robert denied the title to him. That he had always been prince. He was never called a prince. It's a good point though. that's just I think that's just a fuck up. I think just George fucked up um, in that situation. But with regards to Lonmouth, so Richard Lonmouth, so it's yes, you're right that it's this kissing imagery. Um, so what we get is essentially we have the in the Arya chapters we have the discussion of kisses and skulls. Let's see here. It goes. Let's see. I want to get the. Here it is. I cannot eat a silver stag nor ride one, a skin of wine for my dreams, and for my news, a kiss from the great oaf in the yellow cloak. The little woman cackled. Aye, a sloppy kiss, a bit of tongue. It has been it has been too long. His mouth will taste of lemons and mine of bones. I am too old. So, for some reason, Lemon Cloak gets this weird imagery of the kisses and bones. And in the same book, in A Storm of Swords, we hear about at Harrenhal the night of skulls and kisses. The Stormlord drank down the night of skulls and kisses. So Richard Lonmouth is created at the same time as Richard Lonmouth is created at the same time as Lemon Cloak. They're created in this. They're in the same book, and I think there is a. Why we know this guy's name, Sir Richard Lonmouth. Was the first time we hear his name, The Worlds of Ice and Fire? Because I kind of think that there must be some. Really, the world of Ice and Fire is the first time. No. He's mentioned in the Daenerys chapter. Okay, Daenerys mentions Lonmouth. Yeah, that's it. Miles Mooton was Prince Rhaegar's squire, Richard Lonmouth after him. So they're created at the same time. The skulls and kisses of his of his sigil, and then the weird comment from the Ghost of High Heart. And let's keep in mind that the riddles of the Ghost of High Heart are not difficult. They're pretty straightforward and obvious. Storm of Swords was a quickly written book. So it now how and why is Rhaegar's squire alive and what is he doing? No one has ever had a very good clue on what the fuck he's doing. I think if you go way back to my Riverlands of the Dragon video, I kind of go through and find all of these different people who seem to have I go through the Brotherhood Without Banners and I try to connect them to the Aegon cause in some way. And I try to say that the Brotherhood Without Banners is for the Aegon cause. And when Aegon invades and they go through Cape Wrath, there's a lot of fucking parallels to how they're behaving and the Brotherhood Without Banners, giving sheets of papers, IOUs, all sorts of things. Now, that said, I do think it kind of thematically destroys the Brotherhood to have them actually be Aegon supporters. like on thematically like what morality means and what they're kind of trying to stand for, and um, how it eventually gets corrupted and becomes nihilism and stuff like that. If they were just in it for Aegon, it destroys kind of everything in the Jamie and Brienne story thematically. So I kind of like all of that like Aegon support. It's still there, but at the same time, I do think it like conflicts with the themes, the existentialist themes of Jamie Brienne. But what's Richard Lonmouth doing? Like, what the fuck is he doing? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I guess he's gonna try to steer the Brotherhood towards the Aegon cause, or at least some of them towards the Aegon cause, and that he's just been hoping for the right moment or something. Uh, that's the best I can come up with. I mean, it's just very clear that like George did mean for Lem Lemoncloak to be Richard Lonmouth, or but to what end? I have no fucking clue. Like, it's just this rant. Like, why is Rhaegar a squire in the fucking middle of the Riverlands? Like, the, you know, it's yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna try to figure that out in the Jamie chapter. We're gonna see. I kind of left it open for people for the fanfic. Like what different ideas. I hope there's some good ones on what Lemoncloak is doing. Um, but uh, 101 laid groundwork for rebellions by giving nobility a role in choosing succession. Um, I don't think. Uh, well, prior to 101, the Targaryens were already choosing their successors. 101 tried to the Council of 101 we're talking about. The Council of 101 tried to establish a closer to Westerosi succession for the Targaryens too. Um, but then removing women from it too, or even going further, that it was no longer about choosing your successor, and yet they were still choosing their successors after it, right? Because Viserys chooses his successor, and he chooses a woman, and they're all like, "But what about the precedent of Council of 101?" Well, there was no precedent of Council of 101. The Council of 101 is remarkably unimportant. Like, no one fucking cares. Like, no one fucking cares. I think they use the Council of 101 one time, and that's later when they deny Dana Targaryen. Um, they pass over her like without discussion. That's the only time in history the Council of 101 ever, besides the council itself, obviously giving it to Viserys. But like as a legal precedent, the Council of 101 didn't do anything. It's a joke. It was immediately contradicted by Viserys, um, and and they had a civil war. I think Dana Targaryen is the only one that it really affects. And then it never comes. Well, one thing is it just never comes up again. Like everybody always had a male heir to hand things to. So it just doesn't come up. Um, but yeah, yeah. But I don't think it laid any groundwork for the nobility for choosing successors. I think probably some were doing it before, and who knows if there's a lot of contradictions in the story on like if people have their own succession systems, or whether they have to follow a general Andal succession system. things like that, like the discussions between Walder Frey about who's in line, and he passes over all the girls, like he doesn't mention them, and you're like, do the Freys do things differently, and there's different discussions on people choosing heirs at different times. That guy biting 20,000 gold coins, that's hilarious. Oh, oh. Um, back in my error. Um, if the gold is Blackfyre gold, and it's such a dumb point, like the Golden Company and other Blackfyre supporters run an ESO-centric business, they have an income stream. I imagine we're talking about a benefact, like a Blackfyre benefactor who's like parallel to the Golden Company, because the Golden Company themselves, um, they seem completely oblivious about any Blackfyre plot, like legitimately, like John Connington never thinks about it internally. Harry Strickland doesn't seem to think about it. Um, no, Franklin Flowers, like none of these people are like bring it up. Like, one random guy talks about friends in the Reach, but he's just one fucking sergeant, you know? Um, so the Golden Company themselves seems completely unaware of of any Blackfyre like motivation in what they're doing, and yet everybody is like, every fan is like, oh, Fagon is a Blackfyre. Um, well, it's like, well, that's fucking news to the Golden Company, and it's certainly news to John Connington. So if there is a Blackfyre element, it's got to be some sort of parallel, group with their money, like Illyrio and Varys or something. Um, but the it's not the Golden Company itself. They're a bunch of sellswords. So George R. R. Martin learned how to copy paste in the '90s. It's true. I mean, once I go through things chronologically, like it's very funny to like think like, oh, all this stuff in the Hedge Knight is in early Clash of Kings. There's a lot of really interesting similar scenes. Um, does time traveling Bran hate Theon, or was his torment necessary? Um, I think that if we're talking about time traveling Bran planning it all, um, there's a lot of characters that get tormented and whose lives get ruined by time traveling Bran. So we can start with the most obvious is uh, you know Hodor. Like Hodor, was Hodor a bad guy? Does Bran hate Hodor? Like, well, obviously, like he was tormented and his life is destroyed. Um, we could also probably argue that Jon Snow is another one, someone that that Bran loves, um, is going through absolute torment. When you start thinking about all the different things that Jon goes through and all of the events, Ygritte dying, getting stabbed, all of these things like that, and we definitely feel like Jon's story is being puppeted. He goes out and they find that those others at the trees, and then he blacks out and wakes up and rescues Mormont and becomes his favorite, and then they go on that great ranging, and he gets singled out, and the they Ghost has his special vision where he finds Bran in the tree, and then they let him know that, he lets Corin know this, and Corin says you have to switch sides. So like all of these things that lead to John's story that seem supernatural and related to Bran's dreams about the crypts and John being cold, like all of that stuff. I mean, it's Bran and John's story. Like if there's one character who is whose story is interwoven with Bran, I mean, besides Theon in the Clash of Kings, it's John. Like John and Bran just have so many little thematic elements that and dreams and crossover that happen. I mean, some of it's proximity, obviously, but like, so I mean, time traveling Bran loves John, and he's tormented John, and he probably loves Hodor, and he torments Hodor. So Theon, I'd say the jury's out. Like maybe he loves Theon. Maybe Theon was one of his great friends through life in life. That makes it even sadder that he had to destroy Theon in order to get everything he wanted. Um, uh, uh, um, Nerdrotic was saying that George sold out to Hollywood and isn't going to finish A Song of Ice and Fire. I mean, that's very funny I mean, from a guy who chases money on the internet by saying right wing talking points with relation to fantasy and sci-fi. That's a lot of the fucking crow calling the raven black there. Okay, so in defense of George, like, did George sell out to Hollywood? I don't think he did it intentionally. I think George obviously wanted to make money, and he wanted to tell his story, and he wanted to be successful. Sure, all of those things, but I think he honestly like wanted to finish the Winds of Winter. I just think he can't do it. Um, so it's not that he's, it's like, what's selling out? I mean, that's very 90s to be like, oh, you're a sellout. Like, and I'm a child of the 90s, and Nerdrotic is too. So like, this is a very big, like kind of 90s 90s idea about selling out. But I mean, Nerdrotic chases money all the time too. Like, what the fuck? Like, he has a whole channel that's just devoted to like this whole like right wing anti woman, anti minority fucking narrative that he probably didn't fucking believe before. I mean, who knows what he believes now? Eventually, after 10 years of spewing the same shit for, that can happen. But he probably didn't fucking care 10 years ago about whether there are too many women and minorities in fucking movies. And now he's fucking made a business out of it. Okay. So come on. Who's chasing money? Come on. Um, oh, huh, the Washington munition disposal site. I'm gonna look this up. Let me see if there's a good image on here. Oh, okay. So this is this idea that if you got all these like munitions and you could like put them in a big pile, and then eventually over time they would be covered with like dirt and soil, and then you'd have these random like hills. Um, huh. Well, that's it. You'd think that at least somebody would like dig into those kings' graves, though, right? No, like not a single person like is like, fuck it, I want to see what's in here. Um, I want to. There's got to be. So this is from. This is like an actual like Anglo-Saxon like burial mound. So they just didn't want to dig into the ground, so they just fucking buried them like this. And there's a whole bunch of these all over um, the British Isles. These just kind of random, random mounds like this. Um, like this too. Um, but yeah, could there be something else in there? Um, do fallout shelters always have to be below ground? No, I guess fallout shelter is. Yeah, some people have these above ground bunkers too, right? How about this one here? This is great, right? That would be more. This is like more George's style. And then that way, if somebody like actually dug in, they would find this like cavernous room and they would be like, oh, right, this is a grave of some sort. But so we got the mound and we've got the, yeah. Yeah, I'm going with bunkers. Going with bunkers. But I see what you're saying with the munitions side. But I feel like if it were the munitions, they would somebody would dig into it and find that it's not munitions. Well, if somebody dug into those barrows and they just found an empty tomb, like they would look at this and like be like, "Oh, that's just an empty tomb," because it was a bunker. I think these bunkers make a little more sense if we're talking post-apocalypse. Um, yeah, snow melting and Rob's hair comes up in multiple POVs. Yeah, George does think. I mean, if you're talking about people being repetitive, that's the snow melting in people's hair is a common thing. Uh, even Thunder knows that there are more vows. The last three O's will shock you. And the name of the crone, go fuck yourself. Just like, whoa, I was not expecting that. What? What? In the name of the crone, I charge you to fuck yourself. Oh my god. Um, why is the first Blackfyre Rebellion not considered for a show? Even just one season would have great intrigue with the bastards and the house picking sides, etc. I agree with you. It could. I think it's solely because George hasn't like written um, anything really. Like what we know about the Blackfyre Rebellion is essentially just the Redgrass Field. Like which houses were on which sides, where the battles were, things like that. It's just we know so little. And so unless he came out with like Fire and Blood Part Two, um, it would be all like from scratch. They wouldn't have anything to go on. Um, but I mean, I agree that it's like there's a lot of cool characters, and there's a lot you could do. But it's just that no one has any idea about like what battles, who sided, how armies moved, anything like that. We just essentially have Redgrass Field, you know, um, and that's it. And even Redgrass Field, we don't really have that many details, except on, like how Damon dies, and Bittersteel, grabbing the sword and moving on. It's just purely like what has been put to page. Even Robert's Rebellion, because people bring up Robert's Rebellion all the time. Like we've got more events, but they're not really very logical or um, I guess some people have made timelines and stuff trying to put it all together, but uh, I mean, I suppose it makes about as much sense as the Dance of the Dragons battles, I suppose, and they're doing that. So, um, but that's the only reason. That's the only reason is that Blackfyre Rebellion is just it's we just don't have the details that George has put down. But um, finding South Park cathartic. I haven't been able to watch it because it's not on, right, is it on Paramount or something streaming, right? Because like I only stream stuff, or I mean I only have streaming services, and so I've got HBO and I've got Netflix and I've got Disney and I've got Amazon, but I think it's on like Paramount, right? So I haven't been able to see it. It's I've got my mixed feelings um about Matt and Trey. The like they're weird for a long time, for a very long time. They had their anti-global warming um bit, and they had their, making fun of Al Gore kind of stuff, and you're just in a sense they were very nihilist because they're like, oh, both sides suck. I think that the big thing that encompassed it was the episode about the giant douche and the turd sandwich. And the thing is like John Kerry being the giant douche and George W. Bush being the turd sandwich. And you're like, no, like they're not equivalent. Like John Kerry, like being a douche is so much better than being a turd sandwich. Like as we've learned, like their big criticism of left wing politics is that left wingers can be arrogant. That's it. Like that's fucking it. Like the whole episode about the smug, like, oh, the people driving around in Priuses are all smug. Yeah, who fucking cares? Like who fucking cares that your impression is that they're arrogant? Like that's such a minor crime compared to like what goes on the right. I think they finally came around. It took them a long time. They had their apology on the man bear pig apology like episode and things like that. But and realizing that perhaps they helped bring about where we are. But it's I do think they can be sometimes massively clever though. So um, some episodes of South Park are absolutely brilliant. Um, like God, the episode where Stan stops finding joy in life is one of the best things I've ever seen. Like I was like, oh my God, like so I'm all over the map with them. I'm just like, oh God, like. But yeah, I suppose it's. I do appreciate now that they're unabashedly like trashing Trump, but it's like, God, guys, you could have been fucking doing this for years, you know. Um, but other than little clips here and there, I haven't been able to see it. The Village Hero is probably about Penny Tree. Yeah, maybe, probably. I mean, who knows? What would you do if you were? The thing is, a lot of Ice and Fire in general focuses on the Bracken Blackwood thing, and Hedge Knight focuses on that too, bringing up those characters like the Brood of Bracken and stuff. So if you're gonna, and we know that the Village Hero is gonna take place in the Riverlands and stuff like that, it makes sense that it would be. You're right that it makes sense that that would be Penny Tree. Um, wow. I watched the holiday special live. Boba Fett was the biggest deal. Yeah, I mean that's the one thing they say is and that cartoon is not great, like not great plot wise. Like I think the plot is like Chewie didn't trust Boba Fett, and um and they all trusted Boba Fett, but in the end, Chewie was right. We shouldn't have trusted anyone. Like that's the story. But I guess it was the stylized uh cartoon, like especially for the time, was pretty revolutionary. So people always say that the cartoon is like the one saving grace of the holiday special, because everything else, the Star Wars holiday special is just its biggest sin is that it's incredibly boring. It's not like good bad. It's not like a Troll 2 or anything like that. It's just it's just really boring. Um, I forgot the holiday special. There's it stars Chewie's family, Lumpy, Itchy, and I think his wife Mara or something. Itchy puts on like a VR helmet and has a sex dream about um one of the artists at the time. It's what's his who does he have the sex dream about? It's like a really awkward, horrible scene. It's so hard to find um a picture of it. It's like so fucking weird. Like there's Itchy, and I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, yeah. Here's a picture. Here's a picture of him with the helmet on. But he puts this helmet on, and he has like the VR like sex dream um, about oh god, who was the woman? Uh, hmm, well, man, oh man. I mean, it's funny because like the pictures make you think it's going to be like really entertaining, but it's like it's amazing how boring it can be. Like here they are celebrating Life Day. Um, Mala Lumpy Itchy, and then he puts on the. I know Jefferson Starship does a song. It's not very good, and there's some the cooking show with it's a lot of Carol Burnett show, and they thought they could like bring on Carol Burnett people and just they could improv, but it doesn't really work. Um, where is the yeah Itchy virtual reality helmet? Happy Life Day, and I do mean Happy Life Day. Oh yeah, Diane Carroll. That's it. Diane Carroll. Here she is. So Itchy has this sex dream about Diane Carroll, and she sings a song, and they keep flashing back to Itchy, and he's like, "Ooh, go, 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 go." Oh man, what a time! What a time! Mother, I charge you to be merciful, a la Mallory. Um, the I mean, it should have been something like "I charge you to be merciful," but I think in the what is it? What is it in the Hedge Knight here? Mm-mm-mm. It's charge you. This is the actual Hedge Knight here. In the name of the warrior, I charge you to be brave. The sword moved to his right shoulder, to his left. In the name of the father, I charge you to be just. Back to the right. In the name of the mother, I charge you to defend the young and innocent. The left. In the name of the maid, I charge you to protect all women. Dot, dot, dot. Dunk left them there, feeling relieved as he was guilty. I mean, it's a fucking ellipses. It's right fucking there. The ellipses is right there. And he left him there. There's more. Obviously, there's more. Obviously. The young and innocent. Elmar joined the warrior's sons. Died at the Red Wedding. It still says he's alive in the appendices. Maybe he's a dog named Elmer. Businesses. Randall Tarley dies of the pox. That would be fitting. That would be fitting. I think Preston, you should have kept Gilly in Old Town. I like the fact gives Sam a reason to clash against his father. Yeah, but Gilly also gives Sam a reason to fucking pursue the glass candle and like look east. And Gilly meeting Jorah is just too good about talking about the last wish of um, the last wish the of Gior. You can only be a prince if your father was a prince. No, no, because of Bran. Bran, yeah, they just fucked up. Yeah, did they ever call? Yeah, I guess Arya is called a princess. So, yeah. Um, by restoring Stark royal lineage, Rob could retroactively make his father a king, but then by the logic, Catelyn would be queen. Yeah, I mean, by the logic as well, though, Robert could do that too. So, George, yeah, I mean, I just think, it's either like just randomly Robert never gave them the titles. Um, huh, what if a green seer of a ward used a glass candle for remote view of someone? Inception. um, Funny thing from New York Comic Con, George compared his characters to his children again, then questioned whether parents really loved them all the same. Said, well, some of them are cokeheads. See, people forget that like because George is like a nerd and he puts on that voice and he's like, I'm George. Everybody thinks he's like this sweet, nice guy. And it's like if you've read his fucking stuff, you know he's got like this fucking edge to him. You know he's an edgy guy. And that the fucking nice guy routine is a fucking act. Um Ooh, Arya could see Elmer's Frey through Numeria's eyes. You think Numeria's gonna kill Elmer Frey for some reason? Poor little guy. What did Elmer Frey ever do? He's a little boy, right? How old is Elmer? I think he's around the same age as Arya. That'd just be really fucking sad. You fucking kill this little boy for something. Right? Does it what have they said about Elmer Frey here? His age is born in 290. What's the Elmer Frey calculation? What does it say? Elmer Frey was 9 years old. Being okay. It just says he was 9 years old in the appendix. Okay, so he's a little boy. He's a little boy. Maybe Bruce Bolton was being nice. He's like, dude, I'm going to battle. You gotta, you stay behind, little kid. Stay behind. Nymeria killing poor Elmer. Will Wolfhead gold coins appear in the fanfic? At one point, Wyman brings up and says he's the man to mint it. I think they'd be silver though, right? I have to bring up the mint again, but I think they have like silver stuff. That's brand chapter, right? Rob needs his own coinage as well. White Harbor is the very place to mint it. I guess they don't even mention. I guess it could be. I mean, they always describe their clothing and everything as everything's always silver, which is why like everybody just assumed that they'd be minting silver, but you know, 'cause everything in the north is just silver. Um, but I suppose they don't say it. They don't say that where they do silver coins. I mean, it just seems fitting though, right? Um, but would they have a wolf head? I mean, I suppose if you were gonna do northern mintage coins, right? They would be King Rob on the front and a wolf on the back. But by the time they get the mint running, would they even Rob's dead, so what do you do at that point? Like I don't know what happens to the mint. What is he gonna do with all this mint? Um the officers in charge of all three mints, harbor master, tax farmers. This mint. Every time we bring up mint, it's like the plant. But that's the thing is we hear about so why wouldn't there be a mint? Hmm. I don't know if there'd be any advantage. Like I don't know how much advantage. It's a funny thing about like why Manderley wants the mint. It's mainly because he want. Okay, so the thing is we're living at a time where the it's not like today where a government produces a coin and the money has value because of the government's declaration that it has value. Like these coins are valuable because universally gold and silver are as metals are accepted as having worth. Like minting it in any shape doesn't matter. Like the silver is going to be valued the same. The gold is going to be valued the same. Um, Everything is done by weight, right? So why does Manderley want the mint? Well, he wants Robb Stark to store all of his silver or his metals, his wealth at White Harbor, so that if anything goes wrong, Manderley has all of the money. I think is probably what's going on there. Is that because what does Manderley get out of that? He gets nothing out of it. Like having the mint. Like okay, um, it's just that if there's a storage of the northern wealth somewhere, it would take place. It would be there in White Harbor, but I don't know if because this is brand two that he gets it, so he has to have that sort of a transfer of the north of Winterfell's wealth to to White Harbor, and then for Manderley to be rich because he has all of the Stark the Stark wealth. Um, yeah, I think he did. I think Manderley stole all of the Stark's money. I think that's essentially the I think that's essentially the meaning of that passage, that Manderley went and stole it all. He stole all the money. And he's now like the wealthiest guy in the North. Not that he wouldn't have been massively wealthy before, but yeah, to actually transfer like wealth over to be minted. But I think that's what's going on with it. But will Wolfhead coins? Someone will have to find a room or something. I mean, if it comes up, I'm trying to figure out when it's going to come up because there um, characters will be going to White Harbor, but I'm trying to figure out like who's best to go there if it's Asha or Davos or whatever. Um, would they go back and talk about the wealth? Would Stannis steal all of what like would Stannis like go into White Harbor and just be like all this wealth is mine? I mean, right? Wouldn't he take it over? You know? Um I don't know. He's like if this is Stark silver, it's mine now or something. This is like, huh. That's something to think about. Did Bran foolishly like hand over a very large amount of silver to Wyman Manderley? And then does Wyman still have it, or did he buy shit with it? And then what happens when Stannis comes in? Like, who owns that now? If the Starks are a defunct house, and the Kingdom of the North is a defunct concept, like what happens to the wealth? Like it shouldn't be Manderley's, you know. Um, it should be I don't know. It's rebel silver, I guess. He just takes it all. Stannis would just take it all, huh? Um, oh, at New York Comic Con, George mentioned being affected and influenced by his friend's story involving telepathic dragon bonding. Which story is that? Trying to remember who. he has the friend that would. I'm trying to remember her fantasy stories. They were about this land that was secretly Germany or something, but I'm not sure if there was that much magic in that. Who else had dragons? Telepathic dragon bonding story. I mean, did he know Eric? Did he know? No, that's too early. I'm trying to think. What's Dragons of Pern? Did he? Did he know Anne McCaffrey? She seems a little old for him. Um, I mean, there's a lot of similarities with the Dragons of Pern, but I don't know if he knew her. Oh wait. Who else has the dragons? Did Melinda Snodgrass ever write any fantasy with some dragons in them or anything? I'm trying to think of like who would have a who was like big telepathic dragon stories. I almost failed school reading Anne McCaffrey. Yeah. Right. It sounds so obviously like that it has to be Riders of Pern. I just didn't know if they were friends. Of course, then again, maybe he's just like maybe he imagined them being friends. I mean, I guess let me see here. When did Anne McCaffrey die? She died pretty recently in 2011. I don't remember him saying anything when she died. Um, come on, come on. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, he mentions her once in like a book like collection. Hmm. Anyway, it sounds like it must be her, but it's only a friend's story. You'd think if he was like if he, on the other hand, if it were Dragon Riders of Pern, he would say Dragon Riders of Pern, and everyone would fucking know what he's talking about. But um, huh. Mm-mm. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe some other ideas will come out. Um, George R. Martin, atheist, would not create a all-powerful puppet master depriving all of his individual characters of agency. It's not that I don't like see the contradiction there. Absolutely. But at the same time, he has stories like Sand Kings, where the character is, on the one hand, like very completely evil, and you're supposed to know that this is an evil guy, and his mind is clearly being manipulated. Or Men of Greywater Station 2. So he tries to play both sides. I understand the contradiction. Absolutely. How do you have a story about free will when there's some puppet master like pushing people's like uh minds different directions? But he just fucking, I don't know, he just does that. He just does it. Um or you could say that the puppet masters are God, and then the God will gets killed, and then we have free will from there. Hey, will you ever visit Azerbaijan? Hopefully one day. I've never been to Azerbaijan, or I've never been to the you know Caucasus Mountains area. So no Georgia, no Azerbaijan, no Armenia, no no breakaway places. South Ossetia, um, Nagorno. No, never. Oh, can you explain Walgrave's Blackfyre gauntlets again? I'm fuzzy on the details. Okay, so in the prologue, Pate finds that he goes into a lockbox of like Walgrave's prized possessions, and there's a lobster gauntlet that he said was a prince's, but he can't remember which one. And um, some people are like, well, which prince could it be? Who would? Because you could say, oh, what princes would he know? Well, he knew Maester Aemon, but why would Maester Aemon have a gauntlet? So he needs to have like some sort of like battle background. Maybe it was Oberyn's. People have all these ideas. So the idea is that it's Hagon Blackfyres that during the, was that fourth? So when Egg became king, Egg, Aegon the Unlikely, they called a great council, and Bloodraven decided to trick Hagon Blackfyre, and so he invited him to the great council, and then he was beheaded by Bloodraven as a trick. And so the idea um, was that the Blackfyre gauntlet would be Hagon's, and that he had offered he had in order to not the idea is that the maesters are invited to the great councils, so just like they were in 101, so maesters would be there, boom. So which prince was it? Well, maybe it was Hagon Blackfyre, and that he had presented his gauntlet as a symbol of submission. He said, like, please don't kill me, I submit, and they killed him anyway. And somehow somebody forgot about the gauntlet, and Walgrave like scooped it up as a keepsake, um, as kind of just an interesting story about like what it could, who it could be. And timeline wise, it makes sense. Like, um, uh, Walgrave at that point would be a very young man, and he would be attending the uh, uh, Great Council, and he would see this prince get slain, and he would scoop up the gauntlet. And it kind of just it what's nice about the story, and I don't actually think George was thinking about this. I don't think George was thinking about anything. I think he just threw in a gauntlet. I think the story fits really well because it's an interesting prince that would be relevant to the story. Um, the gauntlet could be a symbol of submission. It would mean something in that form, the gauntlet. and it would give a reason for why Walgrave would have it, and it would kind of advance the story and have background and stuff like that. So that's the idea with it, is that that it was it was it's just, I mean, it's a bit of fan fiction here, right? Like, I don't think George was thinking about who the gauntlet was owned by. It just was there. Yeah, that Walgrave got the gauntlet of Hagon Blackfyre after he was beheaded at the Great Council of 219. Um, was the idea. Am I getting the no, am I getting, is it not Hagon? By the way, am I fucking up? I'm gonna make sure that, who's the one that died at the Great Council? I want to make sure. Fuck. I did fuck up. Not Hagon. It is. It would be Ares. No, which one would be? It's I'm sorry. Anis Blackfyre, not Hagon. Anis Blackfyre. And the year would be 233. Okay. So I apologize for fucking all of that up. But the idea is that it would be Anis Blackfyre's gauntlet in the year 233, which makes it so Walgrave is not so old. So, but yeah. Hopefully the comments are like, you fucked it up. You fucked up. No. Fan fiction on this channel. Yeah, Anis Blackfyre's gauntlet. I'm sorry. Um, mm, 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 mm. Baylor actor was great as Tony Blair in The Crown. Controversies aside, you got to be charismatic on screen for 90s Blair. Gives me some hope for A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Who was the Baylor Tony Blair actor? Crown. Oh, I see. Bertie Carvel is his name. Right? Seven Kingdoms. Yeah. I've not seen The Crown. I understand, they go through they get all the way to modern day and such, but it's here he is. Most of these British actors, the reason they're so good is that they have like very good stage training beforehand. But let's see what he did. Oh yes, well, of course. See, this is the thing about British actors. Like, British actors rise very differently than American actors. American actors kind of show up in Hollywood and hope they get discovered, um, randomly. Um, you know, they wait tables and they just hope they do audition after audition and they try to be on CSI Miami or whatever. They try to get little roles and then they just hope they get a little breakout at some point. British actors are much more like, oh, I have proper Shakespearean training or something. So this guy was born. He has a degree from English, University of Sussex, and then went to place at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, um, graduating 2003. And then he played at Hampstead Theatre, and so he did stage for years and years, and then he was with the Cambridge Theatre, Royal Shakespeare Company. Yep, yeah. It's this is yeah. That's the British system is just it's much more linked to stage than the American system. Not that we don't get stage actors who cross over, we do, but it's more likely that we have people from movies go to stage than we have from stage go to movies. But it happens. I mean, um, Hamilton, but um, it's so part of the system, like for British actors. Mm, 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 mm. Lumpy of hepatitis. Uh, 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 uh. Which point of view narrator is the most reliable and which is the least? What does that say about truth in Westeros? Um, that's an interesting question. Like I'm trying to think of who's because there's people with really weird perspectives, but then there's people that like literally fucking hallucinate stuff, right? Like Sansa literally like misremembers facts that happen on the ground that and so does Hota. The one person you'd think would be straight like this fucking happened. Um, so I'm trying to think like who would be the most accurate. Like who you'd think it would be Hota because he's not supposed to put in that much emotion into what he's doing. But then I just know that he fucks up with the spicy stew thing and Ares Oakheart. So now I'm like, oh God, can I even rely on like who puts in the emotion, right? Like Tyrion is so affected by his emotions that you're like, oh, what can I really say about the truth with Tyrion? Um, I mean, I'm trying to think like who's the most emotionally stable um, one of all of our characters. Kevin was probably the most sober one if he counts, where you just kind of get a sober, this is what's going on in the kingdom kind of situation. And then he turned out to be very different from how people described Kevin. Like you get the perspective of Kevin from Tyrion and the perspective of Kevin from Cersei, and then all of a sudden you get this Kevin perspective that's just kind of like normal, and very kind of cut and dry. So if Kevin counts, he would be the most accurate. But if he doesn't count, hmm. Yeah, that's a very good question. I'm trying to think of who is just like matter of fact. Because even the ones that like you'd think would be that like Davos, or he has the most hallucinations of anybody. So, and then there's so many characters that are stupid that have all sorts of like mixed up notions of the world. I guess I would say Asha's pretty straightforward. Um, she reads pretty well. She reads people pretty well. John's not bad. I mean, he's rather pro wildling and completely clueless, getting killed. So I guess Asha, and then which narrator is just out of it? Well, probably Victorian because he's just fucking insane. Where you don't know what's going on. Probably Victorian or Aaron or something like that would be it. Um, is mercy a sign of strength or weakness in A Song of Ice and Fire? It's a good question. Um, I mean, obviously, like we see Ned getting punished for his mercy, um, and that's a big statement, you know. Um, that you can have mercy but don't have naivety, like don't have naivety at the same time. Like don't be a schmuck. Um, and then I mean John wasn't betrayed. John had mercy for the Wadlings, but the Wadlings weren't the ones that betrayed him. So I suppose, but you know, he had to have seen that like not everyone was going to have his perspective on mercy. Um, huh? Is it a sign of strength or weakness? You know, you want to believe that like George is eventually going to come around. Like the idea is that like you kind of get this like small notion that Ned's mercy with regards to Danny will eventually down the line like come back as this like as this thing where she realizes that Ned wasn't a bad guy and the Starks aren't bad people or something. So, um, I mean, I definitely think that like we're supposed to have mercy, but we're also not supposed to be naive. Is the idea? Like, don't be fucking naive. This is the big thing about like I don't know. You know, we come across this kind of stuff in in modern day society too. Like, you know, if you're walking around and all of a sudden the buildings look bad and you know you're the only white person in the neighborhood or whatever, like yeah, don't be naive. Like you're in a bad area of town, you should probably get out of there. You know, that kind of thing. Um, you know, it's one thing to be like, you know, to be caring and understand like how society ought to be and realize that people need help and to be respected and things like that. But at the same time, like if you're in a bad part of town, get the fuck out. You're in a bad part of town. Like don't be fucking naive. So I think it's the same kind of idea of with regards to mercy in the story. Like Ned was I mean, Ned's faults is man. He's not just naive. He's just inconsistent and dumb. But I think George was meaning him to be naive, and I think it's like it's not necessary. I think mercy is supposed to be strength, but be be smart about it. You know, which characters understand power and why? I mean, I think we're supposed to understand that Varys' perspective is true. That power resides where people think it resides. Um, I think what's very odd is the show tries to portray Tyrion as being this great hand, and that like Varys butters him up and is like, "You're really good at this," and like Tyrion thinks he's really good at being hand. And I read the series and I'm just like, man, Tyrion sucked. At being hand, he wasted all his time fighting his sister, being tricked. I don't know if like D&D, I think it felt like they were writing Varys to be sincere, that oh no, Tyrion was really good at what he was doing. He was really good. And I don't know. I mean, then again, at the end of the show, he says I thought I was smart when I wasn't smart. So maybe they knew too. I don't know. Um, but who understands power and why? I mean, people love to say that, like, Stannis knows how to trick people and knows how to adapt, get people that wouldn't be fighting for him to fight for him and to keep surviving. Um, I suppose that's true. Right? We've seen good things out of John Connington. John Connington seems pretty smart. It seems like he has good head on his shoulders when it comes to power and control and leadership. Um, Maybe not a lot of other things, but we'll see. Or maybe it's Doran Martell. We're not sure. We're not sure. Most of the leaders that we see, most of the kings, have faltered in many ways, though. So it's obviously the dead ones didn't understand power, right? So we can just say that all the dead ones were stupid, and leaving us with the living ones. Um, so yeah, maybe Littlefinger and Varys are the ones that really understand power. The biggest schemers are the ones that understand Doran Martell, and such. Oh, what's your take on the Roinar water mages? Telekinesis or technology? What elements to the Roinar restoration are you considering in the fanfic? Huh. I haven't actually put too much thought into the water magic thing. Um, like, was it just like they had hydroelectric plants or something, had windmills or something on the water? Like, what do they mean by like Roinar water magic? Let's see here. Um, Sorcerers had blood and fire. Mother Roin whispered, um, strange, uncanny powers. Their cities were protected by watery walls that would rise and drown out foes. They were able to actually fight the dragons. Um, and people are like, okay, maybe the green seers with regards to the okay, because I'm trying to look for obviously the non magical description of what was going on here. All right, so I would imagine that when they're talking about watery walls, I think what they're just talking about is dikes. And that when people attacked, they just flooded the lands around them, and then people couldn't get to them. And that's I imagine what's going on. Um, do people use flooding in warfare? Breaching dams, rerouting water courses, floods, drown enemies on the battlefield. Yeah, hydraulic warfare. That'd be my guess of what's going on. I'm probably focusing on like the Dutch used to. I think the Dutch used to flood their lands during war. Um, the Finns did it too. So I think it's probably just that we're talking about the Roinar just breaking dams and doing weird flood stuff. Because when we get to Croyane's like a flooded city, right? So maybe something like that. That'd be my guess. That they have windmills and pumps and stuff like that, and they just flood stuff when people come in and try to attack their lands. I don't know how that works against a dragon. Maybe they have a big, huge super soaker. Um, but do I need a telepathic mage like moving water around and stuff? I don't know. Um, but I think it's probably just that they were just breaking dams. Do you think George R. R. Martin believes humanity can break the wheel of history, or is doom inevitable? What do you and Carmine think? George R. R. Martin recently has been very, very pessimistic about everything. When I see him in interviews, he's very, very down. He's very, very down on the world. Um, so I think at this moment he's probably doesn't believe that humanity can break these wheels of history. It, I am flabbergasted every day how dumb people are and how like uh, we can just be like falling for the same shit over and over and over again. I'll do the for example, right? Trump goes and declares peace in the Middle East. And they literally put him on the fucking cover of Time with Trump's triumph. And you're like, dude, like he fucking do you remember how he went to Alaska and like declared peace between Russia and Ukraine? Like Trump declaring fucking something to be peace and like doesn't mean it happens. And I think like way back in January he did the same thing. Like when he first came in office, that like, oh yeah, there's going to be this ceasefire. And there was no fucking ceasefire. Okay. Like people fall for it over and over and over and over. Like, no, like there's not going to be a fucking ceasefire. It's not going to be fucking roses. There's not suddenly going to be fucking peace in the Middle East. There's not fucking new dawn. Like what fucking idiot would ever fucking believe that? And yet every fucking time they honestly put him on the fucking cover of Time. Trump's triumph, you fucking idiots. Like how dumb can you be? Like that you could possibly think that this would be the end of the conflict. like what? What? And yet here we are over and over and over. It's amazing to me. It's amazing to me that like, we after a century of like learning things with economics, that they can just be like, up tariffs again, boom. It's driving us into a depression. That it amazes me that we can just have these economic bubbles. Like everyone knows there's a fucking AI bubble right now. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows that there's gonna be a huge crash, just like the .com bubble and whatever. It's just everybody fucking knows. Like everybody, and yet we're still just chugging along. Like that's the weird thing about it is that like we do learn from the history. We all know it, and then they fucking go and do it anyway. It's like you know what's gonna happen. Like everybody knows what's gonna happen. Like people were saying it. It's amazing that you can just be given the information and it just can be ignored. Like Joe Rogan being like, oh, I didn't think it would be like this. They all fucking said they were gonna do this. This was no fucking surprise. So it's not even the learning. It's like I feel like I mean, you didn't ask about the learning. You asked like the breaking the wheel. I don't know. Like it's just so fucking weird. Even when we learn, we do it anyway. It's like, it's not going to work out with that ex-girlfriend. You've been through the 3 times you've tried to get back together with her and it fucking ended disastrously. You know, and yet you get in the car and you go over to that, and you're just like, what are you doing? But you just like compelled to do it. Like humanity is compelled to do it, even though we're well aware of what's happening. We're well aware this is all going to be a fucking disaster. Um, oh, will Dunk make up the last three O's for Egg? I think eventually Dunk is around. I mean, Egg must know the fucking oaths, but we've seen that there's a huge difference between like Dunk's knowledge um, between the Hedge Knight and the Mystery Knight, and it's either that inconsistent writing. Like I say, Dunk can read and all of a sudden knows all about coins and gold coins and stuff. But there's been some years, he's allowed to learn and grow. Um, I'm certainly not the same person I was when I was 16 years old. Um, so, I'm sure Dunk is going to hear the fucking oaths here and there. Some people get knighted. He's got to be around people eventually. He's going to hear about it. Um, so is Dunk, but it's a big question. Will Dunk eventually knight Egg? The thing is, how old is Egg in the Mystery Knight? Because Egg is like, Egg on the 5th. It says he's born in 200, so he's 9 in the Hedge Knight. So he's what? Mystery Knight takes place in, is it 2011? 2012. So he's 12 in the Mystery Knight. Even when he goes up to She-Wolves of Winterfell, say he's like 13. He's years away. I mean, we're never going to see Dunk. We're never going to see Egg. We're never going to see Egg become a knight. And we assume that like, is Dunk going to be the one to knight him? But it would be. But I think by then Dunk would know. Would have figured out the oaths. It's been a long time. It's been a long time. But I mean, Egg's not going to get knighted until he's like 17 or 18 years old. So it's a while. Am I the only one who thinks none of the food descriptions in the book sound appetizing? For however many thousands there are. Not one. Not one? There's got to be something. All right, I'm going to bring up the Harvest Feast because I feel like there's got to be something there. All right, there's got to be. Is it this one? Yeah. It's got to be one. They're great joints of oryx roasted with leeks. Venison pies, chunky with carrots, bacon, mushroom, and mutton chopped, sauced in honey and cloves. I could I wouldn't mind that. Savory duck, peppered boar, goose, skewers of pigeon and capon, beef and barley stew, cold fruit soup. Okay. Lord Wyman brought 20 casks of fish from White Harbor, packed in salt and seaweed, whitefish and winkles, crabs and mussels, clams, herring, cod. One thing that George gets wrong is that he thinks that like like seafood is like packed in ice after it's killed, and you're like, oh, like you want to bring that fresh, seafood. You don't want to bring it live. Like I think in a Game of Thrones, they're like eating crab that had arrived like in ice, and it's like you're only 3 days from the ocean. Bring the fucking live crabs, steam it then. But here he salted everything, crabs and mussels, See, this doesn't sound very good. Like you've brined all your fucking salmon and lobster and lamprey. Nah. Black bread. I'm just imagining like good German pumpernickel or something. Honey cakes, oat and biscuits, turnip and peas and beets, beans and squash, huge red onions, baked apple pies, berry tarts, pears poached in strong wine. Hey, why not? Wheels of white cheese. I mean, it's pretty standard. Sounds okay to me. That seems pretty good. I like that. I like that Harvest Feast sounds pretty good. I don't know. Um, what's at the wedding? Who is it? Um, what's at the wedding? Let's see. Is there going to be probably that they would roast? Um, Moonboy mounted his stilts. Lords of the Ladies sampled roast heron, uh, cheese and onion pies. Okay, that could be good. Um, Here we go. Peacocks served in their plumage. That's weird. Roasted whole and stuffed with dates. I don't know why. I guess date. Maybe roasted lark, sliced hams, boiled eggs. Okay, roasted lark stuffed with garlic and onion. That would be pretty good. Pale airs, Moorish fire wines. I don't know. Spiced sausage in the morning, washed down with smokeberry brown. I think I don't know. Sounds okay. Sounds okay. I think I think what happens is I think that perhaps you're reading the scenes and then you're imagining these very ugly people. Like because there's a scene where like Illyrio and Tyrion are like eating and it's they're talking about disgusting things and they're both physically disgusting human beings like looks wise and mental like soul wise too they're also gross but like it's very just kind of very gross to like think about them slurping down food. I think it's the same with like Wyman Manderley and stuff like that where you're just like it's a gross person so that comes in with all this delicious food you're and this morbidly obese person who's just trying to do power and later revenge like they're just kind of there's nothing appetizing about it. So it might be that you're just not in the mood for food because this is a serious environment with horrible people and you don't have your appetite. And so the food is making you ill um, uh, because you're not hungry. Mm-hmm. In the Davos chapter, they called Rickon Lord of Winterfell. Are they assuming Bran is dead? Didn't Osha tell them he is with the Reeds? Um, I mean, yeah. I mean, I imagine that. I'm just trying to think it through. I mean, everybody has assumed that like Bran is just out of the picture. I think if they assume that like he went north and has disappeared, that this crippled boy is probably dead. I mean, it probably should have been worth a mention. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right that it probably should have been like, well, at some point somebody said, well, his older brother died, so Rickon's. But I think it is just assumed that they are just obviously all assuming. I mean, obviously, if Rickon is Lord of Winterfell, I think even back in A Dance with Dragons, the assumption is that Bran's dead. that this crippled boy can't possibly survive the winter. And so much so that it almost goes without saying, I guess. But like, of course he's dead. Of course he's dead. Um, but would OSHA know that he's with the Reeds? Of course. Did they say they just said they were heading north? So um, this is the whole joke about like they leave different gates, yet they both head the same direction and would just like run into each other like immediately outside. They'd be like, "Oh, hi, um." But yeah, I think the assumption is that like it's so obvious that Brandon should be dead that no one even brings it up. Oh, have you seen Dinner with Andre? 10 out of 10. I have seen Dinner with Andre. Um, I watched Dinner with Andre. I think after I saw um, the Community episode about it. My feelings about Dinner with Andre. I mean, it's certainly worth a watch. It's an entertaining movie, but I think it's kind of funny the genesis of it because like the two characters are supposed to tell are supposed to like both scripts, like the first half of My Dinner with Andre and the second half were written separately and they're supposed to be shoved together. But the first half is written like monologue, and then the second half is dialogue. So Andre gets like 3/4 of the fucking movie, while Inconceivable Guy gets 1/4. And you feel like Inconceivable Guy should be talking more, especially in the first half. He just goes, "What happened next?" And then just Andre starts monologuing, and then he's just like, "Uh huh." And what happened next? And then Andre just starts monologuing and stuff like that. Um, it's very interesting. I mean, Andre is also like he spends so much of the movie also like talking about Nazis. It's amazing how much that movie is about Nazis. Um, but it might be just a mindset of that time of people in New York City having just him just been to Poland and things like that. So it's it's very it's very it's I think it's a movie everybody should watch because it's a fascinating little experiment with filmmaking. But um I don't know. I don't necessarily think it's the best acting. I think it's a little uneven the fact that like Andre is talking 3/4 of the movie. And but it's a fascinating movie. I certainly think everyone should watch Dinner with Andre. It's very entertaining. So I think it's on YouTube. I think you can watch My Dinner with Andre on YouTube. Um, George spent the first 20 minutes of his 70-minute interview talking about New York sports teams, then segued into Batman and other comics. He spent maybe 10% on Ice and Fire, probably less than that. Sounds like George. Sounds like George. That is classic George. He talked about more about Jackson Dart than he did. Yeah, that's classic George. Yeah, it was Anis Blackfyre at the Great Council. Yeah, I screwed up. It was not Hagon. It was Anis Blackfyre. Um, uh, 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 uh. Oh, I just acknowledge that British actors are better when Patrick Stewart took his role in Star Trek. I mean, he's also a Shakespeare guy. If you so when I was in college, for a little while, a bunch of us were renting the uh, um, like old British um, like Shakespeare movies. They would just perform. They would have the Shakespeare company like perform, and they'd just film it, and it was just on the BBC. And so we were watching a few of these, and Patrick Stewart with hair is in a bunch of them. I think he's Claudius in in Hamlet, but he's just a background character in a lot of them, just like laughing ruffian number four, But it's amazing to see him, Patrick Stewart with hair. Um, Let me see here. As Claudius. Oh yeah, no, there's the. Oh, I had it. I had the picture. Damn it. Here it is. Oh, this is actually him from I Claudius. He was also in I Claudius. But yeah, him with his hair. But yeah, they would just film these things, and he was in the background of all, like he's in a bunch of them. Here he is. I think this is. Did he play? Am I thinking? Like he's in This is the weird thing, is I think he plays Claudius in Hamlet, and then he's also in I Claudius. Not to be like two Claudiuses unrelated, but yeah, no, yeah, I got it right. I was like, oh wait, he played Claudius, and but he's also in I Claudius. Yeah. Oh my god. But he's in a bunch of these things. Um, University of Sussex. Some sus sex. Umatillion Munitions Depot. There are bunkers as far as you can see in a nice grid pattern. I mentioned because Georgia Martin has probably seen it. Color for the fanfic. Let's see the Umatillion Munitions. Oh my. Yeah, definitely. This is yeah. Look at that. That's like that's straight up the barrel. That's straight up Barrowlands. Look at that. That's what I'm talking about. So they just built these things, and then they're just, these mounds in the ground. Ned and Robert having breakfast. Them just thinking like, oh, what beautiful country, what beautiful country here. Oh man. I mean, I think I'm, yeah, definitely. That's my head canon that they were all bunkers rather than being graves. Um, Here, which point of view might visit Winterfell in the near future? This is a major problem I'm having with the fanfic. Thinking about this, because it's like, so we've got our northern POVs, right? We've got Mel, we've got Davos, we've got um, Theon, we've got Asha, and I'm trying to think like, okay, I kind of know what I'm going to do with Theon. Like Theon, I know some people are like, oh, does Theon need to go and take the dread fort and things like that. And I was like, I don't know if there's much story there, but I think I kind of have a story of what I think he should be doing at Torrance Square with Dagmar, and they can talk about the dread fort and things like that, and try to resolve some of those things. But then there's the question of like Asha, and like if you're Stannis and you just won the Battle of Ice, what would you do? Like, what would you do? Do you just? I mean, some people are like, well, we dress up like Freys and we march in and we take over. Maybe. Um, would that work? Probably not. Like, uh, then I was thinking, well, if I'm Stannis, maybe I'd take Castle Serwyn and then just hold up there. And then it'd be like, well, do I even need to take Winterfell? Like, why don't I just let Ramsay starve? And you can go down to White Harbor and do whatever you want, Asha. Um, the question is, do you send Asha back to the Wall, or do you send Asha somewhere else? Could she just continue to be the Stannis stuff, or do they hear about something at Winterfell that everybody's gone and they go to Winterfell and it's spookily empty or something like that? Does Mance Rayder show up and they capture Mance Rayder and Mance Rayder like speaks of what happened at Winterfell? Like how is it handled? I feel like if I were Stannis and I'm the biggest genius in the world, like why do I even need to take Winterfell? I just tell everybody that I take Winterfell. I let them starve there. Um, so I don't know. I'm trying to work it out, but it seems more than likely that if we're going to see Winterfell, it would have to be Asha. Like Asha's the only one that really is available to go in and see. But would Stannis really risk her life? I don't know. And so it's a really tough one to think about. Luckily, putting that one off for a while, because we don't necessarily have to deal with it for a while. I've got a looking at the list of chapters in the future. It's like we got a while before we have to do Asha. Um, a lot of other people before that in the story. So, but it's something I'm really torn about. How do you show Winterfell? How do you resolve the the Mance Rayder Ramsay Roose situation without killing Asha, um, and have it be something that's fitting for Stannis? So, but I think it's going to be Asha. I don't think there's any other options really. As weird as it is, you know. Um, yeah, this is absolutely true by Kevin. They make him seem like a stuffed shirt, and then his point of view, he's like this completely competent dude. Hmm. Is Cersei more crazy than Vic? They are both pretty batshit, right? Uh, uh, um, mm, mm. All right. Um, yeah, the Chinese blew up the Yellow River in World War II. Yeah, I mean that's all true. I tend to think that George doesn't pay attention to outside of Western European history too much, which is why I'm like, what did the Dutch do? Maybe he knew about the Dutch. I mean, it's true that Chinese did this stuff all the time, but um, uh, Yeah, it's true. If dragons can't fly over the desert or the sea, they might be unable to rest on a boggy or marshy land. That's a really good idea. Yeah, that's a really good idea that they would not want to like just be like set down in like a weird marsh and get all muddy and drown. That's a yeah, inflecting your own as much. Maybe, maybe. Um, but yeah, I don't know how much. It's funny. This is how like I kind of know that I'm old. Is like when I see young people going out on the street and doing stuff, or young people like keeping like picking up the fight and stuff. Like there's this YouTuber Adam Mockler who has got this like huge channel now, and I'm like my thoughts are like good for him that he still has hope and that he's not jaded. You know, it's like I feel like an old person being like, well, I'm happy these unjaded people exist to keep the fight going, but because that's just not me. I'm just so fucking jaded. Um, no, 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 Preston. This time will be different. Yeah, I know. Humans are really fucking dumb. Um, when the Epstein list becomes a feminist issue. Uh oh, is this the I mean obviously like the Epstein list should be a feminist issue. I don't Epstein list is very funny. It's very funny in that in that on so many other things people don't believe like victims, you know? Like people like Jean Carroll, can win in court a million times and people are like, "Well, I just don't believe her." And you're like, "But okay, how about all like the 26 women who accuse like Trump of sexual assault? Like, oh, well, they're all lying. Each and every one of them. Okay. Well, uh but then people are like, "Well, the Epstein list is going to like bring him down." But isn't it like isn't this the same thing? I mean, it's just like somebody's testimony that somebody did something. I mean, Trump himself admitted to some of these things, and people are like, "Nah, he was joking. Oh, he didn't mean it." You're like, ugh. So I don't even see like I know that people are making a big deal about the Epstein list, but like I just don't know if like even if it came out and it said if the Epstein list came out and said Trump is a pedophile, like absolutely 100%. Would anyone even believe it? Like would the right believe it? They'd just be like, fake news. Make fake story. That's it. That's all. Like we live in this time where it's just like anything can be just dismissed. Like I just don't believe it. That's it. It doesn't matter. Um, the I mean, it's funny because I'm thinking about the Bible, and in the Bible, um, there's a couple of different accounts of like Jesus's resurrection, and if you read one account, um, they go into the cave and there's an angel there, and in another account you go in and there's two angels there, and if this were a court of law or anything, people would be like, well, which is it? Was there one angel or two angels? Like, what the hell? Like, um, it's very clearly like contradictory, like testimony, like on a fundamental level, and the other gospels add even more contradiction. But everybody's just like, I don't care. It's doesn't matter. Like then what is this? Like what is this testimony? What is this testimony according to John? Like if it contradicts the testimony according to Luke, like What's the point? What's even the point of having a testimony? Just say you just fucking believe something without any fucking evidence at all. Like, just like, what's the point? So it's the same thing with these Epstein lists. Like, people are just gonna believe what they're gonna believe. We're in a post truth world. It just fucking doesn't matter. Um. Oh, does George R. R. Martin's world oddly lack the spice trade? He talks about pepper a lot and saffron. I mean, it lacks a lot of different spices. Like, don't get me wrong, but he has pepper and saffron, and I think that's pretty much it. I'm. Oops, what I was trying to. That's really weird. Okay. Um. Yeah, it's just like the only thing coming from the east is saffron. He puts in frankincense, saffron, frankincense, and pepper. Frankincense, of course, is a is a um, it's a burning incense for it's like tree sap. It's a burning incense for prayers and religions. So I don't know who's been using the frankincense, um, but why is saffron the only spice? Saffron, pepper. I mean, I think when they say cloves, they mean pepper. And oh wait, he gets some curry and cardamom. Oh, there's some curry and cardamom once here in Daenerys 3. Curry, but we don't hear about anybody having any curry. Daenerys is curry. And that's it. Huh. What did they have in medieval times? What medieval pepper, cinnamon, ginger, cloves, other spices, nutmeg, saffron, cardamom, cumin, mace. Or as some people say, cumin, because they don't want to say cum. But yes, cumin. But the spice is actually, cumin. Everybody has to be cumin because I don't want to be putting cum in my food. Huh. But yeah, there's not much of a spice trade. This just for the pepper and the saffron. But Davos says he has like said saffron like once or something. So I think it's just like for pepper. Hmm. Not huge on seafood. I usually find the people that are not huge on seafood grew up someplace where they had bad seafood and it ruined them. The thing is, the difference between good seafood and bad seafood is enormous. While the difference between good beef and bad beef is not that much. Like there's a toughness aspect to it, but it's not like bad beef tastes bad. Bad seafood is horrible, like while great seafood, the good seafood is fantastic. So there's enormous like so it's always people, it's always like somebody from Oklahoma. They're like, oh, I'm not a big seafood guy. Yeah, because you're from Oklahoma. Okay. Like, of course. Um, mm, mm, mm. Yeah, the doom happens in pretty recent history. Should more history of interactions or trade or skirmishes between Westerosi and Valyrians. Surprisingly, no talk of the Ironborn or Valyrian or other seafaring house interaction pre-doom. Yeah, it's ridiculous. it's really ridiculous. The problem is that like the narrow sea is too narrow. It doesn't take very much to go across it, and so the way Westeros exists and what cities are big and like makes no sense. It makes no sense. Um, like think about all of the interaction. Like what it takes a week to sail from King's Landing to Bravos. Like that's it. Like how long do you think it took to sail from like Rome to Cairo to Alexandria? Um, like I mean that takes 2 weeks too. Yeah, like going from Rome to Alexandria would take 2 weeks as well. So like there should absolutely 100% be a much larger relationship between um, Westeros and Essos. The fact that like they're not there that all of Westeros would speak the common tongue, but like they barely like hardly anybody is dabbling in High Valyrian in Westeros. Um, that there's just not constant appearance of like different peoples. Um, like the King's Landing should be like filled with foreigners. But yeah, no, it's also like why is Old Town so huge? Um, you know, compared to other cities, why is Salt Pans not huge? It's absolutely there should be many more connections, but uh, yeah, I don't know. It's a lot. It's rather silly, but especially yeah, the Doom and like why there is this question of like why didn't the Valyrians conquer West? Like why did they have these outposts with on Dragonstone and Driftmark and Claw Island, but not the rest of the fucking inland area when it was not very far. It was not very far at all to go from Valyria up there, you know. It's yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But um, some people think that maybe there's some sort of agreement or some prophecy or something spooked the Valyrians. They didn't want to go that way. Um, um, want to make Davos the POV at Winterfell? It's just somebody has to be at Eastwatch. I have plans for him at Eastwatch. Um, like having him like go down the to White Harbor and then up to Winterfell or something is just I don't know. It's just too much. Mm-mm-mm. Epstein list is very funny, Preston Jacobs, because it's just Trump's name like 500 times in a row. Um, that's it, man. It's true. They could. He could do that. He could. No one. Um, Preston starts doing 10 push-ups, 10 sit-ups, and running 10 miles per day. There was a time where I was doing back in my marathon running days. That was a long time ago. My last marathon was in 2009, but I used to run Not 10 miles a day. I used to do 6. I used to do 6 miles a day, and then the long run on the weekend. Mm, but it was a long time ago. And then I tried to train again, and I get a kidney stone. But I should probably do some more running again. Oh, best trivia question: which character received 3 dragons for their mount? That's right. The mount part. That's a good catch. That's pretty fun. Would curry come from a shy? That's something we don't talk about. Man, a shy's got some great curries. Have you had the curries from a shy? Man, those are some good curries. The thing is, curry is a mixture of spices. So it's odd that he puts in curry. Um, so curry is um, oh my goodness. So curry powder is turmeric, cumin, coriander, and chili powder. We include, I think there's more. I think there's like 8 different. Um, Additional things are ginger, garlic, mustard seeds, garam masala. Yeah, like I've seen, like this is literally like what goes into curry. Like it is a mixture of things. Now the thing is, does George R. R. Martin know this? Like the fact that like she's got curry powder in Daenerys 3. That means all of these other things exist. Um, do we hear about turmeric? Turmeric, however you want to pronounce it, but um, no, of course not. There's an enormous difference between good beef and bad beef. Whatever difference you see, the difference in seafood is fucking more is larger. Okay, the difference. um, but the thing is, that's the thing is, flavorless beef is a lot better than bad seafood. Bad seafood's just got a horrible. Seafood's my favorite food, but like I love it. I love fish. I love shellfish. But like old seafood's just got a different flavor, and it's just it like literally makes you sick. Well, like a tough steak, you know, stringy chicken, or whatever, dry pork. It's not going to make you sick. Like it's not going to, and I don't even make you sick. Like there's something there's bacteria or anything. I'm saying like there's sometimes it's just the flavor of the fish. If it's bad fish, it's just like yeah. You tape your nipples, of course, of course. No, I mean you got to get like definitely would tape your nipples because after a while, like the salt in your shirt, like just it goes brutal on you. But the other thing is you got to get the easy glide for in between your legs as well was kind of an essential thing. Yeah. Mm, mm, mm. All right, made it to the end. Thank goodness. We've already established that pronunciation is arbitrary. Also, like the other thing is when we're talking about like Eastern, at least I mean I don't know much about any South Asian languages. For what I know is that they vary massively. But knowing some Arabic and spice names in Arabic, like it kind of like there's no vowels and emphasis is even, and so when you have something like cumin, they just are just like come in, like there's literally no vowels in it, so it's just come in, like so how do you pronounce it correctly? What do we say? What do we say here? Like somebody brought up Uranus and Uranus. It's like, do you want it to sound like piss, or do you want to sound like a butthole? I don't know, but it's the same. Cumin. Um. Yeah. Anyway, unless that's all, I got to the end, feeling good. I can actually get to bed at a reasonable time. Carmine's not on here to harass me, and that's about it. If the Epstein list is released, the engineer race from Prometheus sends ships to release bioweapons to turn all of us inside out instantly. Anyway, thank you guys for being with me tonight. And I don't know. Hopefully something interesting will some stuff will interesting will happen. Let's see. I'm working on Dunk 7, and eventually I've got to record the Samuel chapter. Try to put together Hota 3, everybody's favorite character in the story, Hota 3. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks a bunch.